Death threats are never okay. It's never something that should be okay. However, it does exist in this online world we live in. You talked about an online world, Mr. Rubio, and very dismissive of some of the things in this online world, despite the fact that we're right here. What I would say is that I can go through my DMs and my requests, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and I can find you horrific things. I can find you terrible things.
Same here.
That is a tiny microcosm of reality of all normal people out there,
and a sad one.
And I guess it is sad, but it's also just the reality. There's always going to be this very, very fringe 0.01% of the population that goes ahead and does something like that with us because of internet anonymity or whatever. What I will say is to play victim and to use this moment to put out a choreographed and and I think this is where some of the malice can come in, guys.
Yep, pre-written.
They had already planned on using this excuse in the case of Moses Ingram. They prepped the media, they prepped Moses Ingram, and as soon as it happened and there was bad feedback for the Obi-Wan Kenobi series,
they prepped
boom, that's the biggest headline coming off week 3 of Obi-Wan release.
They prepped Miss Ingram because past his prologue and because of the treatment that Kelly Marie Tran had received. Moses Ingram is not only a female; she is an African American female.
Yeah, I disagree.
Oh man, she's got double.
Women in any field are subject to more criticism than men, and I would also like to just point out at this time that this entire court is made up of. I'm not going to call old white guys, but I'm going to say of white men of a certain age. I'm
actually non-binary and Latinx, sir.
Well, Mazel Tov.
Thank you.
I have no idea what it is, nor will I ever, as a female in my industry, which I have seen some deplorable things happen to females that would never happen to males. And sadly, that is the same case for any field. Females are marginalized, and I think that it's you'll walk into an office that will be 90% male workers and think nothing of it. But if the opposite is true, all of a sudden, oh my God, the world has gone to hell in a handbasket. Why are all these women here?
Mr. Rubio, I have a question for you. Do you think that
just because of the world we live in?
Do you think that who do you think is more, I guess, marginalized or feels more out of place in their workplace? A female nurse or a male nurse?
I wouldn't know, sir. I have neither, but I can tell you.
You were just talking about every workplace here across the country.
Ryan, I make fun of my brother-in-law who's a male nurse all the time, so I'm going to go with male nurse.
But I think the point being made here is that they're allowing a small minority of hateful people speak for the majority, and I think that's what the major problem is that to not like a certain movie, to not like a certain character, now you equate that with the people who really don't like them and makes the racist and the misogynistic comments and then assigns it to them. And that is not fair. And that does not fix the problem of fixing bad movies, bad stories, and bad characters.
It also happens to distract from the reality, which was much more than just about her race. It was
my point is the anger is misdirected. Again, I stated earlier in the proceedings that I have over 30 years in the business. About 17 of those years is with children's television, predominantly run by females, and quite frankly, some of the more powerful females in the industry. And I didn't, but most people don't know that because most people don't care where your My Little Ponies comes from or where your Batman comes from. But the cartoon renaissance of the 90s that has blossomed into what we now have is at least 5 networks running cartoons 24/7 was started by a female.
Rubio,
I'm sorry. Can I quickly add something?
Go ahead.
I think that this argument is I'm going to say dumb. I have 115,000 subs on my main channel. That's nothing compared to Chris. But it's enough to warrant, my face isn't even in the video, constant comments daily on my videos that are just threatening and complaining about my voice, or my brother's voice, telling us horrible things, just assuming what we are. The internet, there's a portion of the internet that is always going to be that way, even with nothing but 100,000 subs. It's always going to be that way, always. You're not going to get rid of it. Trying to fight against that is just, it's like trying to punch the ocean. It's just a waste of time. But that's not the majority of the fans. That's not the majority of Star Wars fans. That's a small portion. And the bigger the boat, the bigger that portion is going to be. And that's just facts.
But I think when you just take a look at some of these things and the way they've responded to fans, take Dave Filoni's clip that I played about his reaction to fans that were worried that what Kathleen Kennedy, what everyone at Lucasfilm was saying about pushing this highly feminist agenda and trying to inherently change their fan base was saying. And it was scoffing at them. He was making fun of them. And, I do feel like that's a little bit malicious, to be quite honest with you, in a way to interact with your fan base, while at the same time saying, we're going to go further and further down this path. And guess what? We're going to do it again.
And you can't do anything about it.
Yeah. So
that's what I hear. Every time they say it, I hear the same thing.
Sophie Penn for 6. People didn't like Rose Tico's character. As a woman, her decisions and actions appalled me. She put her feelings above the safety of others. Bad writing. And Ben Roy Turner.
I know the Rose Tico thing was addressed at some point.
I'd like to say agreed, but not malicious.
The thing I would say about the Rose Tico thing, and I didn't get to address it in cross-exam, I wish I would have, but the claim was that Kelly Marie Tran was harassed off social media by all these people that were very mean to her. And then you brought up a Wikipedia entry about the character of Rose Tico.
Yes.
I would love to see screenshots of all the harassment she received that made her delete her Instagram. It wasn't just like, wow, your character sucks. Wow, your character sucks. Wow, your character was really pointless.
But you'll have to understand that the most of them are basically screen grabs before she took down her account, and so they're just like, they don't have the person who tweeted it, the name.
Instagram probably.
That's the one problem with people that are racist. They don't really want you knowing that.
Yeah, to be clear, the alleged comments were on Instagram.
Comment and then they'll delete it.
To be clear, there was a very small number of comments on her Instagram about how people didn't like her character. And also, if we want to take Kelly Marie Tran at her word, she actually left social media because of the pressures of Hollywood in the entertainment industry. She did not label toxic fandom. She did not blame fans for her leaving social media. So I would take Kelly Marie. I think Kelly Marie Tran's a really sweet person. So I personally would take her at her word instead of trying to victimize her.
Your Honor, can I bring up a question real quick?
I want to answer the
Mr. Rubio's
viewer's question.
Go ahead, Mr. Rubio.
About how who exactly pushes the hateful speech to the top. It's your cookies and your metrics. The more that a word appears within an article on the web, the higher up it gets pushed. People respond to that, continuing with certain key phrases, and that continues to push it up.
I'm sorry, Mr. Rubio. You're actually, that used to be the case in like 2003, but we haven't been using Boolean search since literally the early 2000s. The way it works now is actually unknown. It's not based on cookies or words. The algorithm can't even be gamed the same way as it used to be back in the early 2000s. So now it's actually based mostly on actual people or bots on social media that give whatever the campaign's looking for that bullhorn, and it can be positive or negative. It's often negative because negativity sells more than positivity does. Take it from me. I have 2 channels. One has 115,000 subs, and I've been very positive for 5 years, and it's taken me a long time. Another one has 6K subs, and it's grown 15 times faster, and I complain most of the time. Negativity sells better than positivity, especially when the negativity has value in critical thought. When people are watching you and they're saying, "Oh wow, I feel the same way. I also feel very betrayed by this franchise or by this show or this movie or whatever." When they start thinking, when they start seeing or hearing what you're saying as their thoughts, then they will push that message for you. That's the way the internet works.
Thank you for the education. In answer to Ryan's question about Kelly Marie Tran, in an interview with Vox.com on June 5th, 2018, she said, and I quote, I avoided social media for the longest time purely because I was afraid. I was terrified of being picked apart, of being scrutinized, of being seen. I am an incomplete, imperfect, broken mess. And I am here to say that it's okay to be imperfect.
So I will point to you in that entire interview. She goes in detail about her backstory and her history and always feeling this way about herself. So she was saying that she avoided social media before these things happen because of all those pressures. That's what that interview is about, I believe.
I would submit that anyone who receives any kind of notoriety or fame on the internet receives, I would say, the equal amount of abuse.
100%.
So
I could show you hundreds of comments from last week. Hundreds of comments, and I'm not even famous. 100,000 subs, and I get 150 comments a week.
Can I share some DMs with the court? May it please the court?
Please, Mr.
Oh,
Mr.
Ryan's probably worse than me.
All right, so this is just, I'm not going to go through all of them. I think it'll take forever. I just want to go through one and to show people that this does happen on the internet. Mark McGeehan, thanks for sending me your DMs, buddy. I appreciate it. You finally got my attention. Hey, asshole, delete those videos you talking shit about Disney or I'm going to report you. I wish every day you got banned from YouTube, you're racist. I'm warning you to stop shit talking Disney. I seriously hope you die one day. I am seriously going to destroy your career if you talk shit about Star Wars. I'm still going to keep reporting you when you're dead and or banned from YouTube. You're a dead man walking. I'm warning you. Are you ready to die? Stop talking shit about Disney, you racist. Shit. You're a dead man walking. I wish every day you're dead in the news. Stop talking about Disney, you racist. Are you ready to die? Racist Disney hater. I'm warning you. I wake up every day. I think he says, I'm wishing you were dead. I wish you could just die and never show your face again. Stop talking crap about Disney. You're really making me pissed off. Stop. Get ready to die. I wake up every... So, is this enough?
Jesus, that's way worse than me, dude. Oh my God.
Ryan, you underestimate Mr. McGeehan's 7 followers.
I know.
It would seem that he really only has about 2 songs on his playlist.
Oh, Lord, man.
I stopped because... Then he starts calling me racial slurs. He starts somehow calling me the N-word. Not sure how that works if I'm racist and also white. But so I just use that as an example to point out that people that are online, people that make themselves publicly available, there's going to be some freaks like that out there. There's going to be some people. And that doesn't make
that's way worse than mine.
Acceptable, but it is just the reality. It's not acceptable that somebody might run a red light and T-bone me and kill me. But it's part of life when you go out there and decide to drive. That's kind of my view on online harassment.
Yeah, man, I'm sorry. I get made fun of because of my weight and my voice. That guy's threatening to kill you.
Yeah.
Not even the same. I apologize.
You're a very handsome man, Brian.
Well, even I have experienced this. When I first started doing television in the late 90s, early 2000s, I remember the first email I received. I have no idea how this person got my email. It was from Chris Gore is fat at hotmail.com. That is the email address. And it was just someone saying cruel and horrible things. It got to the point where when I was on a show called The New Movie Show, I got a threat from a guy that was a very specific threat. It was in writing. And unbeknownst to me, I wasn't aware of this. There is a division of the Los Angeles Police Department that specifically deals with threats to people that work in the entertainment industry. Mm-hmm. I turned over the evidence to the people in that department. They then visited and had a conversation with this person. So I can tell you, and I'm reviewing movies at the time like Adam Sandler movies,
Right.
So
I think I was watching you, man.
If you reviewed Jack and Jill, that's worthy of threats. All right.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean,
But,
you were asking for it then.
Exactly. So I don't want to I don't want to jump into the conversation too much. Go ahead, Dr. Gordo.
Just it's rather quickly. I guess I know as annoying as it is, it really does comes back to this word malicious. Does it mean just to do something on purpose? Okay, that's where it seems like a lot of people are using that definition. Did Disney include all this current identity politics on purpose? Well, yes. But if your definition of malicious is to cause harm, did they do it to cause harm? You could look at it like this. Did you do the dishes? Yes, I did them maliciously. So are the dishes okay? If you did the dishes maliciously, I'm just trying to point out the power of that word because, yes, the preciseness of language does matter. I think something else has come up here today, that when it comes to the Star Wars galaxy, we're okay with diversity. It's okay that you've got a galaxy full of different people who look different things, have different values. Is it okay if there's female characters in Star Wars? Absolutely. We love Leia. Rey could have been great, but wasn't. Because again, it really comes down to the way things were executed. They did not hire the best people for the job, and it doesn't really matter what the gender ratio was. And then when it comes to the gay agenda, I will go on to live and say I think Star Wars are okay with gender fluid characters, just like they're okay with the female characters or they're okay with diversity. It all comes down to, are you telling an entertaining story that is going to let me escape reality for a few hours? That is what we want you doing on purpose. And I think that's what Disney has been trying to do. Have they been doing so well with the execution? That's up for another debate because, again, our matter here today is quite simple. Did Disney maliciously push a political agenda on the audience, and did it maliciously go after fans, calling them racist? We've looked at the evidence here, and although there's a lot of circumstantial stuff going on, no, Disney did not organize a campaign to go after the fans, and no, it did not organize a campaign to annoy the audience and lose money. Thank you.
All right. I guess I can go. That way you can wrap it up.
Sure. Hey, Brian.
So there's got to be a difference between, malicious-wise, there's got to be a difference between losing money and pushing an agenda that you think that you can weather. So what Mr. Rubio said was, he said, well, how can it be malicious if their goal is to make money? Well, sure, their secondary goal is to make money. But their primary goal is to push an agenda, and they're hoping they can get away with it. And they just didn't this time. In fact, I would say they probably did money-wise. They probably made out okay. But the fans aren't happy, and that's why the IP is slowly losing steam. So the question is their agenda to make money, right? Or is it to push some kind of political agenda, i.e. fourth wave feminism or whatever? Is that the agenda? When you look at what the creators of the movies and TV shows are saying on Twitter and in interviews, like Mr. Cannell pointed out, they clearly, either they're lying to the audience that they're speaking to about pushing down one type of fan to lift up another type of fan, or they're not, or they're telling the truth and they're doing that intentionally. And if they're doing that intentionally and they know that the backlash is going to be negative, then they think that they can probably weather the storm because the agenda is more important than the money in the short term. They probably think that us dumb Star Wars fans are going to eat it up anyways and still go watch the movie. And in a lot of cases, that's probably the case. This is the reason why Transformers makes $1 billion every time it comes out. We can complain about it all day long, but we still show up, right? So at what point does it matter if we complain about it if we're still watching the movies and TV shows? And if they know that, if they have those metrics, if they know that we're still going to show up, like Jason Isaac said about Star Trek Discovery, the Trekkies are still going to show up regardless. If they know we're still going to show up, then they can do whatever they want. They can push the envelope, they can take the heat, and they can blame it on racist fans in pre-written press releases that they wrote before the episode even came out. Right? That's the thought.
Did you want to respond to that, Mr. Rubio? Oh.
Well, it's a close, so I don't know if I can respond to that.
feel like
But
Mr. Gordo went and Brian went.
But I would
Yeah,
like
it's open to.
but I would like something for the record.
Yeah, sure.
If it pleases the court.
Please.
Within these proceedings, the court has had to remind the jury no less than 4 times to be impartial. Also, through no fault of the court, a video that could prove bias, showcasing the judge himself, has been let loose upon the internet, making it a little more difficult for our case. Thirdly, the court itself did, in fact, show when showcasing responses, the prejudice of the jury, in which that was 2 of the 4 times in which the court had to say that the jury must remain impartial. 4, throughout the entire proceedings, and I presume this will not change through the next 5 counts, the court has, because of its inability and because of the nature of the court itself and the fact that we are online, both the prosecution and the defense have been denied voir dire, which of course is the ability to select the jury and interview the jury to make sure that it is impartial. This is in violation of the 6th Amendment of the Constitution of the United States of America, and it is grounds for dismissal. And so I would like the judge to consider that when all of this is over, and that perhaps this be retaken up at Comic-Con when both the prosecution and the defense can actually select an impartial jury.
I'll take it under advisement. Advisement. We're trying to find a location where we might be able to have the final episode and the final verdict live at San Diego Comic-Con. That is something that's in the works. It may or may not happen. I can't promise right now.
I guess.
By the way, I want to remind the jury that droids are not allowed to render a verdict in this trial.
No bots allowed.
Yeah.
The only discrimination that was in the Star Wars universe, according to George Lucas, actually.
Right.
What I will say is this: I think it's been a great back and forth, and I thank the defendants for. This is a tall task, because I think there is a lot of negative energy around Star Wars right now, and I think that's directly the fault of Lucasfilm. I think they are the ones that caused this. We've been speaking a lot about Malice. That's what the defense is focused on. The semantics over Malice, which is in the charge. Was there intent to damage? Was there intent to do harm? I would argue yes. I think we showed sufficient evidence in the beginning, especially with some of these Dave Filoni and Kathleen Kennedy videos that are out there, acknowledging that we need to change Star Wars. But also acknowledging at the same time, we're not going to cater to men. In fact, what was happening, they may have hoped to grow the overall brand. They may have hoped the end result would be better off for them in the end by pushing away some of their fans, which is absolutely what they did. But in reality, they admitted that they were not going to cater to men, the biggest portion of their fan base. As defense so ironically pointed out at one point during our open debate, Mr. Rubio looked at the panel, and I don't know how he ignored Mr. Ng. I don't know how he missed him, but he said it's a panel of a bunch of white men speaking here. I don't really find that ironic, because I think we have a large portion of people that are very, very passionate about Star Wars. The fact that the people that are most passionate about Star Wars were here to argue for it, either for or against, happen to be men and happen to be mostly white. I don't think that that's like a coincidence. I think that that's the passionate part of the fan base. And it's the one that specifically Disney and Lucasfilm refused to cater to and told everyone that they weren't going to cater to them. So regardless if they thought they could make up for it on the back end by getting more women to watch or anything, they did intentionally do harm to that existing fan base. That's the reality in my mind, and I think in the mind of the good people of the jury. When it comes to these diverse stories, yeah, absolutely. There's always been, well, I don't know about always, but there's been black people in Star Wars for a long, long time. People weren't sitting there getting upset. They weren't sending Billy D. Williams, death threats and things like this, right? There may have been one or two outliers here and there. But for the most part, that's just simply not the case. It wasn't the case for Moses Ingram either. People were mad that she was a bad character. But when it comes to what people are upset about, the story, I think, and so many other people think, that the reason why the story is suffering is because they're more focused on these checkboxes. They're more focused on diversity. They're more focused on pushing an agenda than they actually are about telling a good story. Now, I think that I think Disney thought, with all their ego, Kathleen Kennedy, I think they all thought that they could just slap Star Wars on something and it'd make billions of dollars. And you know what? It worked for a little while until people realized that this isn't their Star Wars anymore. And now they are finally seeing the ramifications of that. They are realizing that this is what we have done to the Star Wars brand. We pushed all these people who were fans away. We admitted it. We told them they were going to do it. We laughed in their face like Dave Filoni. But that's what they did. And now they're sitting there, and all they have left is their storytelling ability. They don't have that big brand, that big excitement about Star Wars anymore. And that is why they're failing. And that is why Disney murdered Star Wars with all of these things, including Count 4, the malicious introduction of current day identity politics. Thank you, Your Honor.
The prosecution rest. I love that.
Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone.